Welcome to By the Cottage Hearth with Dana Maree. I'll be taking you through the journey we make as healers, the impact we're yet to make, and the words to use to describe it. Come on in. All right, welcome back to the Hearth. Today we're going to be speaking with Alicia Sweezer from Who Knew Healing. She's got that handy dandy background for me. Thank you so much. And thank you for coming on today, Alicia.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much. I'm so super excited to finally get a chance to chat with you and to, I don't know, just connect.
We'll do our thing. We didn't do much planning because we knew that we would have so much to talk about. If we tried to plan it, we'd probably say all the good stuff. So we're winging it today, and I am very, very excited. So Alicia, why don't you tell us the work that you do as a healer? Let's start there.
Okay, thanks so much. I appreciate that. So interesting enough, I have sort of a dual-faceted business because, as every overachiever out there knows, you can't just do one thing because that would be way too easy.
I feel called out by that right now.
Right? It's like, oh, you want to do what? No, we'll just put two in there. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. Everyone's screaming in marketing, you have to niche. I'm like, I have like 9. So I was like, I don't have to niche down. So it's a dual faceted business. I'm a former wildlife biologist. So I have an animal side to my business that I dearly, dearly love. I do animal consulting, animal communicating. And then for the people side of my business, because we still love humans too, intuitive life coaching, mentoring, energy work, traditional psychic mediumship, that sort of thing. So
I love
lots of things.
And I love that you had that part of your life and your career that was around animals that you're like, I'm not letting that go. Like that is still really important to me.
Yeah, it's one of those things, like ever since I was little, I knew what I wanted to be. Like I didn't know it was called a wildlife biologist to my 7th grade science class, but I had the pictures in my mind. And I was born being able to talk to animals, but I didn't know that. I was just always really good with animals. So I actually thought it was a wildlife biologist thing. I thought I thought it was science because that's what science felt like to me.
Yeah.
And so I was much, much older and I was out in the field and I was like, you guys don't talk to animals? And they were like, no, not like that. And I was like, oh, that's just me. That's not all the other wildlife biologists that are sitting around me right now. So it's quite eye-opening. And so, yes, when I transitioned from doing that, I still get to help animals in so many ways. And the wildlife biology part adds so much to the traditional animal communication, because not only can I deliver the messages that your animal has, but I also get to educate my human clients. I'm like, this is why the medicine does what it does. Anybody, this is normal behavior. This is how we want to switch that. Like, there's just so much education that goes into it that I absolutely love being able to give them, because they can then take that and go on with the rest of their life.
Yeah. And I love that that's an empowerment tool, that it's not, you have to keep coming back to me, like you're educating and giving them that as well.
Exactly.
I love that. So let's go into, because I love the thing we kind of bonded over was talking about our stories when it's quote unquote too much. So we've both been through a lot. Let's talk about your story and how you got to this version of your business, this healing, I don't want to say modality because multifaceted, we've got all the things. How did your journey bring you to where you are now?
So I won't say how old I am, but I was going to be like, it's a very long, it started from, there's so many things that happen in our lives, and there's so many things we talk about our family of origin. And, there was mental illness, there was addictions, that sort of thing that were in my family. And those have an impact on your life. And you can, if you choose to, work through that and heal those parts so that you can then look back on it and see the things that were extremely traumatic and also the things that it taught you and made you who you are today. So that's one of the things like I really focus on, is like, I wouldn't trade any of it.
Yeah.
And because it brought me to where I am today. And I really like who I am today. And that by no means is that easy. Like, that's a lifetime journey to even be able to say that sentence. And the fact that I say it publicly now is like, but
And
it's
actually
true.
mean it, not just
Yeah,
saying
it
it and
actually,
giving lip
yeah,
service, like actually genuinely feeling that.
yeah, you embody it. And so one of the things, like I mentioned, is I was born being able to talk to animals. So I was born an empath. I was born very intuitive, and also super analytical.
Yep.
And I didn't know so much of that for so many years. And so growing up to where you're feeling everyone's emotions around you, where you're, psychic and you can see what's happened, but how do you explain that at 8 years old? And having all those experiences, and then my ex-husband, like, I got married, we were together a really long time. I was a massive people pleaser. I was a massive
Yeah.
caretaker, to the extent of I completely lost who I was. I had no self-identity, because society teaches you your partner is everything, right? You're supposed to love them with everything that you are. And when we separated, that was 10 years ago. That was really a shift in what happened. Like, it was all of a sudden I could see things, because we were so just not a match. Wish him all the best. And but we were so just not a match. And so when that changes, it opens up so many things. And I
Yeah.
started to see, and I started to heal. And then along there as well, 2006, I ended up with my fifth traumatic brain injury. And so that is why I'm no longer a wildlife biologist, because I spent years in physical therapy, learning to walk, I was just a mess.
Starting
And
again.
yeah, starting again, I would pass out every day at 1 o'clock for
Wow.
like 15 years. And I never knew if I was going to wake up. How do you have a full-time job and support yourself,
Yeah.
and get a divorce and support yourself through all of that? And so that was part of the healing journey of where I had to find non-traditional modalities and body work and concussion, syndrome treatments and that sort of thing, to heal my body. So that was that, along with all of this self-growth of getting a divorce, and your intuitive gifts like rushing in all of a sudden. And
Finding your identity and your sense of self after all of that.
yep.
Yeah.
And that's what I love, being able, like, a lot of my clients, my friend, whoever, I was like, look, I've like, they can see, like, I'm very transparent and all of that. And they're like, she actually uses the tools she teaches people. And it's like, yeah, because I've done it. And so they know the
Yeah.
things that I'm teaching them are actually going to work. It's not something that I've just read over here and be like, well, let's try this.
Theory.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
And
my blood, sweat, and tears are in this. It's going to work.
yeah. This is what happened when I use it regularly. Yeah. I love that you've touched on that as well, because that's something that with my own clients, when we're working together, I will come back to their own modality, because we have to
Mhm.
be able to practice that not only for our own self-care and replenishment, but when you are working with your clients, they know if you're using this stuff. Like it helps with your messaging, it helps with your actual work with your clients if you embody and know exactly how it feels to be using that. So I love that you went there, and the fact that as your practice develops, as you're deciding how you're going to be using those modalities, if you've gone to an intensive or in a class where you've learned it and you're just practicing it exactly how your teacher has taught you, you don't
Mhm.
have that connection to it. And as a fellow, very deeply feeling person, empathic, my clairsentience, I feel everything very deeply. If I can't experience that, I can't help someone else use it, because everything I do comes back to that. So I love that that was part of your journey. Do you think that the way that you're working with other people now comes back to what you've gone through, like as your driver force behind your business?
It's really interesting. It has, because a lot of on the people side of my business, I get a lot that are people pleasers, have trouble, setting boundaries, or they've lost their sense of self. They're like, I just don't know who I am. And they don't even know what it is that they want. They just know that it doesn't feel good anymore. And it doesn't feel good enough to a level where they're like, this needs to change. And I love that, where they, like, that's one of my favorite things of, like, when I do intuitive mentoring. I love newbies. They're my absolute favorite, because they're like, this stuff is happening and I don't know. And I was like, this is fabulous, and because they're just so precious.
Yeah.
And you're like, it's gonna be fine, because I remember when all of that happened for
Yeah.
me, and they're just so adorable and so precious, and I love them. And then also, having one of the things, the word that gets thrown around so much these days is narcissist, right? And people use it in such a way that it's not accurate. It's like if someone's being entitled or self-centered, they're like, it's a narcissist. Like, no, 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 no. That's a whole other thing. As us feelers, we know there's a particular feeling and a vibration around a narcissist. When
Yeah.
they walk in the room, you're like, because we've healed that part. Because I had a lot of them in my life, and I get a lot of clients that are in relationships or coming out of relationships for
Yeah.
narcissistic abuse. And I'm able to walk them through, the withdrawal process, the all that self-judgment of how did I not see and how did I not know for so long? And it's like, listen, it's going to be okay. So it's, and I love that because they get to see what it looks like on the other side. Now, do I still people please?
Yes.
Yeah, I do. That bitch is still in the car. Most of the time she's in the back seat, but sometimes she climbs to the front seat and I
Yeah.
got to beat her back.
Yeah.
She's back
Yeah.
there with the perfectionist, the people
Yeah.
pleaser, like they're all right in the back seat. So it's like, we don't have to hate that part of ourselves. It's like, no, it's still part of us, but they don't drive the car anymore.
Yes. Oh,
And
and I
so,
love that honesty. I love that honesty that it's this, because I think it is something that gets perpetuated. You're going to deal with it and then it's going to be gone and then you're going to carry on your merry way. And it's just like, oh, no, 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 no. I am still an incredibly traumatized person. I am still someone like even going into this, I've realized this is transparency because we do real. I'm a highly anxious person. I didn't hit record on my recording software at the start of this. So I still don't know 100% at the start of our message. Like Zoom is fine. We always have a backup. But the whole time, my brain is constantly running, and it's my job to push that back and be like, no, no, we're going to be present. We're going to deal with this, and I'm going to have an anxious freak out later. But you've got to be honest about the fact that just because you're doing the work and you're healing these parts of yourselves, you can't expect it to completely disappear, because it's, especially when it's coming from an influence like childhood, it's someone who's, it's something that's been in your life for such an extended period of time. So if you're feeling like, oh, but I'm doing the work and I'm helping other people, especially when it's something you're helping other people with now, but it's still coming up for me, you're not a failure. That's normal. It is normal if you are still doing something or you need support for something that you're helping someone else with. So I love that you said that, because I think it's very important that we're honest about the fact that you're not going to be 100% healed and you've got nothing to work on. Like, dreams are free, go for it, tell yourself that. But let's be realistic. There's always something, as you're evolving, as you're peeling those, the onion back, there's always going to be something you're working on. So cut yourself some slack if you're worried that it's still, that voice is still kind of there a bit.
And I love that you say that. Thank you so, so much. Because it's true. Just yesterday, I was in one of my marketing things, and the woman, she was like, and I was like, I've worked on that so much. And she was like, and there's always the next layer. And I'm like, yes, I know that. I'm just having my tantrum right now because I thought that was all gone. Like, even those of us that do this, it's like, there's not a place, as cliche as it is, it really is about the journey. And I'm very much a done person. Like, I want something to be done. I can check the box and move on. So that's always a practice for me of like, this is a journey. Yay.
Yeah. And you can't, I think that is something that even goal setting, there were some goal setting circles that I was in that was like, okay, we set the goal and we get to the goal. And I would always be like, but I'm not done. How, what? Why is the destination like not it? And I think it is important to remember that the journey is the whole point. Like, if you look at, this is going to sound morbid, but as we have discussed, we have a certain
we're going to get there.
sense of humor when you go through some stuff. The end destination is dead. So stop looking at making the business a certain thing as the end destination, or buying the house, or traveling, or doing this. That's not the end destination. The end destination is going to be when you ain't breathing anymore. So if you're not there yet, you're on the journey. So I think once I kind of accepted that for myself, it took so much pressure off. It took so much pressure off, because I'm like, well, I'm still alive and kicking. Let's go. Let's just, let's get going, see what else is out there for me. So yeah, that's dark sense of humor. You should be used to it by now if you're in my audience. Yeah. What do you think is the most difficult part about speaking about your work?
I think it changes over time. And I say that to let people know, because there's so many people I come in contact with just in general, right, out in the public, and they're like, oh, I'd want to start a podcast, or I want to make a video and everybody gets afraid. And I'm like, look, you got to do it. Like, you got to do it. And so, when I started my business years ago, there was, we'll just take the animal part for a part. It's like, in my mind, I thought I had to separate all the wildlife biology and I could only do psychic work with the animals. Like, I cut off
Ah,
half up because I was like, that doesn't count. It's not as good as this. So I wouldn't even talk about that.
right.
And then I realized that's actually my superpower. And so, and as you heal more and as you become more confident, because if you've never had your own business, not something I thought I would ever do, it is the biggest personal growth journey you will ever freaking have.
Yes. Yes.
Like, it is not, people don't even know. And so it changes and it grows. So there, in the beginning I was like, oh, people don't want to hear about my stuff. And only in the last year have I even started to say I've had 5 traumatic brain injuries. Because I don't identify, I don't label myself as that. I still have symptoms. You'll hear me slur my words constantly on this. And I had to get over that. I'm like, look, the universe is saying I need to start talking. So I need to get over if people are going to make fun of me because I slur my words or I forget a word or whatever.
Yeah.
And so it's that place of, as time goes on, as the more layers you pull back, as the more you integrate and become who you are, like who you came here to be, then you get to a place of being able to talk about the next chunk and being able
Yes.
to talk, like now I talk about my marriage and all the things that I did and he did. And, and that's, and from a way, like you can feel it, right? It's light. I'm not walking into it going, I'm not 2 months divorced and be like, look, I'm going to get on here and tell because there's a lot of emotions that aren't healed and that's not going to be
Yes.
helpful to people. And that's different than our dark sense of humor
Yeah.
that we get to laugh and talk
Yeah.
about. And, when it's
Yeah.
a lot, it's like, no. And we were talking about this and I really want people to know is the reason we can laugh about this stuff is, one, we've healed it to the level that we've gotten to now. And we can see the light side of it because life is hard. And if you have an ability to bring humor to it, it changes it so much. Now, can I make jokes about myself and how I showed up in my marriage now? Yeah. Could I, like I said, 2 months? No. Now I can be like, look, I was a massive people pleaser. This is what I did. This was not
Yeah.
helpful. This was it. And so that's part of it too, is like, I want people to know, because I'm seeing so many people in my marketing groups and they're just getting to the place of like, they want to be visible. And I've been pretty visible for like the last 2 years. It's been part of my journey. The universe is like, you're just going to get out there and be public. And
Out.
I was like, I'm going to do what? And because I'm a massive introvert. So so you just got to do it and it changes. And
Yeah.
if you cannot judge the change, like my business card has been redone like 6 times because it constantly changes what you call yourself, what you do, how you see
Yes.
yourself.
Your
And I think that's tied.
branding.
I know this is like a real long way of saying the answer to your question, but it's like it changes over time. And if you
Yeah.
cannot have judgment and allow it to change, then that's me. I get in my own way more than anything else. And then so my
Yes.
biggest hurdle of telling my story is getting my own self out of the way.
Yeah. And I think it's so powerful. And I love that you went there because that's probably the crux of what I do. So many of my clients will come to me and say, I'm struggling with showing up online. I don't know how to talk about my work. I really struggle with bringing all those pieces together. And what it actually comes back to at the end of the day, like simple, is you don't feel safe. And
Yeah.
if you don't feel safe to show up online, you're not going to talk about your work. You're not going to talk about your stories because you're so in your own way and in your own head about how will people see me and how will I sound and how are they going to judge me? And am I going to be stuck with this recording of me online for the next 5 years? I was looking through. So before this iteration of my business, because, we all take a couple of cracks at it. It's not overnight success. This is 10 years in the freaking making. So let's be honest about how long that journey is. The last iteration of my business, I was doing shame coaching. And that's when I published my book with all of my, shame stories and traumatic events and all that kind of stuff. Writing that book made me go sober. 2 years sober, fantastic. But a lot of the stuff and writing it made me realize that a lot of the stuff was written from a place of being healed and it was very kind of factual. And then some of it made me realize how much healing I still had to do on those things because of the way that I was talking about it. And that iteration of my business, the way I had gone into marketing was making myself the poster child of pain. And it absolutely sucked. Like it sucked to be talking about these stories from that space all of the time. So as I grew, as I did my business, and I looked at it and went, well, this is actually not what I want. This doesn't feel good. This doesn't feel right for me. It changed, and I deleted all my social media and I disappeared from everything for a year, which you're not supposed to do. Everyone tells you, no, you've spent all this time building your mailing list and your reputation and your visibility. And I'm like, no, I'm just going to nope out for about a year. Okay, guys, I'll be back, but like not right now. And then I came back and I had clarity over what I wanted to do. And I had healed these parts that were really holding me back in my business, and my branding is different and the way I show up is different. I mean, let's face it, I'm still the same Dana Maree. I'm still swearing like a sailor and I still just do what I want. But the difference is I'm honoring myself and my purpose and the feelings that I'm having. And I no longer feel like I'm getting swept up in my business and just following what I should and should not be doing. So I love that you went there, that you need to be able to let your business grow, to evolve into what it needs to be for you to be able to help the people that you want. And you are not going to get the right job title from the start. Like I identify my job title as Wolfa. Now, how many people know what that means? Like none, unless you're obsessed with Norse mythology. You have no fucking clue what I'm talking about. But you know what? It doesn't matter, because my clients come to me for how I can help them and what I help them with. And as long as you're talking about that and making that clear, your job description doesn't matter. But how many times did we agonize on putting that on a business card and making sure it was right and worrying about what our job title even was? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, because it doesn't do the heavy lifting in your business for you. But at the start, your branding colors might not be right, and your message and your niche and your marketing might not be right. But if you don't try and get out there and give it a go first, you're not going to know that. You're not going to get to evolve. So that's a long way of saying I love your answer and thank you for going there.
Well, I love everything. I was like, yes, I'm over here like trying to contain myself, and because it's true. Like there isn't an entrepreneur out there, particularly in our type of business, that this is what it looks like for all of us, because we are our product. We're not, I don't have a Cuisinart to sell you, which would be fantastic, because then I could tell you it's separate from ourselves, right? I can tell you this thing separate than me is fantastic. I'm my product. And
Yes.
so then to say to people, these are all the things about me, because that's real comfortable. It takes practice, and it takes time, and it takes just growth and maturity. Like
Yeah.
it really does.
Yeah.
And as much as I like to do things so fast, it is not a fast process.
Oh my gosh. I wrote that book in 12 weeks, right? I wrote and published my life shame and story in 12 weeks. And let's just say, just because you can doesn't mean you should. And if I have learned anything from that process, like that is something that I re-traumatized myself and re-triggered myself and a whole bunch of stuff. So just because you can do 4 courses and drive yourself to burnout, studying all of those things and going all of the calls, doesn't mean you should. There's no one coming out here with a good girl like medal to tell you entrepreneured so hard this week. Good job. No one's coming at you to say that. So just when you can tell yourself, right, I need to be my own source of validation. I need to be my own caretaker. I need to tell myself, bitch, you need to sleep. Like it's time to stop. When you can start doing that for yourself and stop marking your success at how many things you can get done this week, you're so much more productive. You're so much more efficient and intentional with what you're doing with your work. And I think feeling safe, again, tooting my own horn, but it does really come back to trusting yourself and feeling safe enough to make those decisions and know that the only person who matters at the end of the day, well, the only people that matter are the ones you're working with and you. And as long as you're looking at those two things, you're going to grow. You're going to keep going.
Yeah, I love that. That's a constant reminder for myself. Just because I can doesn't mean I'm supposed to.
Yeah.
Because I can do a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
I can, very easily. And it's like, yeah, I don't think that's mine to do, but I could do it. It's like, no, stop,
Yeah. I think
stop.
it's even with business ideas. I think so. Shiny object syndrome is real. Like this is the
Mhm.
temptation, especially when there are sales on and people are like giving offers and stuff. I'm like, oh, but that looks so good. But I have to constantly remind myself, like, no, we need to look at these things right now. These are the things I need to be working on and creating those foundations. And I think procrastination, I call it procrastinating. Procrastinating is definitely a real thing, because when you're like stuck and I'm not sure how I'm going to word this and I'm really nervous about showing up online, you know what I need to do? I need to do another course. That'll fix it. I'll give myself this course and then I'll suddenly show up online and I will be like confident as fuck and everything will be okay. And then at the end of that course, you're like, oh, it wasn't the right course. I'm going to do another
Yeah.
one. And you
Yep.
just get
Oh my God, this is so perfect. I know I'm interrupting you, but yes, that's what most of the world does.
round and round. And I am not judging, because this is
No, we've all
obviously
been there.
from learned experience. I'm calling myself out. I know this because I lived this. And I have to be very strict. I had to put myself on course buying bans. I had to be very intentional about looking at the gaps in my learning. Like, am I doing this course because it is a gap in my knowledge that I need to learn to improve my business? Or do I not want to do this thing, so I'm dedicating that energy to something else? So I think being honest with yourself about where you're at and that capacity to take self-responsibility and reflect is probably one of the most powerful skills that you can give yourself, even more than being able to be on Canva and make your fancy website. What is more important than all of those is your capacity to self-reflect and take responsibility for your own actions, because that is what is going to change something.
Yes. Oh, you just, all the feelings right now. I have
And
all the feelings.
I'm up on my soapbox today. Apparently, we're triggering Ranty Dana today. So I love that you bring out that in me. So when you are looking at your business, where do you see it growing from here? Just following that theme, like what does growth look like for your business now?
Uh, I'm laughing at the universe a little bit right now because I'm like, you're going to make me say this like publicly now. Okay.
Yes.
Because I'm like, really?
And that's
So
not usually a question I ask. Like
yeah,
that's
like
me
it's,
channeling right now. So I would
yeah,
actually say universe is using
yeah,
me to deliver. So go for it.
yeah. Thanks. So, in this next year, I really I've had some pretty big opportunities in the last couple of months with the animal side of my business. And I was super grateful to be part of a massive charity event here that we had in Phoenix with the Arizona Animal Welfare League. And so it was a massive marketing opportunity, dogs everywhere. It was like the best thing ever. And so I know the animal side of my business is going to definitely start to look different in this next year. It's going to grow tremendously. I don't have the metrics for that or anything yet. I just, us feelers. It's like I know what the universe.
Yep.
And then interesting enough, and we'll see how much language I actually have for this yet, because I don't
That's
have it
okay.
all. So y'all get to see in real time what it looks like for us, where we don't have all our own answers yet.
Yeah.
It's very frustrating. And we get to trust, and you get to have your tantrum, and then you get to go back to trusting. And so the people side of my business is it's gonna be shifting. And I don't fully well know what that is yet. I think my sense, could be wrong. My sense is that it's going, because I've done a lot in the last couple of years. I've done a lot of relationship work. I've done a lot of life coach, intuitive life coaching, because I'm my science brain. I can pull apart behaviors and relationships in a whole other way. And a couple of months ago, the universe was like, you made me cut all those clients loose. And I was like, you want me to do what? You do realize this is my income, right? So anyone who out there, like, we all
Roots,
have
food.
and it's like,
Yeah.
all right, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. And interesting enough, when I look at it now, like I see all this stuff online and the dating, and I'm like, oh, and I'm like, I don't want to do that. I
I love
don't.
that. Yeah.
So, but it's weird because my clients are like, you're really good at this. And I'm like, I appreciate that. I thought I was really good at it too. I don't know why I have to give up something that I'm really good at. So this is full transparency. I want people to really see, like, this is what it looks like for us and how your
Yes.
business
I love that.
changes. So my sense is that there's going to be more spiritual, more intuitive, more energy. More like I don't know exactly what that is yet, but I know it's a sense of, you see all my hands doing my energy thing.
I do it too.
It's a sense of like it's circling back to that.
Yeah.
And so there's going to be some pretty cool things created out of that. I just don't have the words for what it is yet.
That's cool. And I do love that you're saying like this is in real time, because I mean, the work I do is I literally help healers with articulating their message and their story and the work they do. But the reason why I'm even in business is because it is such a common problem, and it is something that at some point we're all struggling with, because I think as heart heart-centered, deeply feeling, nurturing people that we are as healers, we feel the magic first. And when it comes through first, you go, oh, that's a thing. Like, I'm going to ideate and see how that kind of grows. But you feel it first. And that's why it doesn't necessarily come with words first. So I love that you're leaning into that and you're like, screw you, universe. All right, let's go. Let's put it out there. This is kind of what I'm going with. And you don't always have to have words first, but putting that trust in yourself and feeling safe enough to lean into that is the beginning. So thank you for announcing that publicly for me.
Yes.
For all of us to see. We will see how that grows.
I know. I'm pretty excited.
And it kind of ties in with that, I guess, is the question I usually ask guests is, what is your impact or legacy goal? What do you want to leave behind?
Oh my gosh, that's because what popped in my head is there's two things I've done in my life before my business that have a lasting impact on this world. And I'm so grateful to have been part of those. And so with my business, the legacy is that, one, I always knew from a little kid that I came here to change this world. And that's not, please know, that's not my ego. It was very heavy.
You don't have to put a disclaimer. I get it. Yeah. Yeah.
And it doesn't mean you have to be, huge. Like, believe me, I'd love to be the next Maya Angelou, right? Like, who wouldn't love to have global impact like that? Yeah. And you're still successful if you're not. Like, we still leave a legacy. So it's this place of where I get to manage my overachiever and go, you know what? My legacy is that every person I come in contact with, their life has changed because of it. Yeah. Whether they're a client or a friend or someone that I randomly meet. And that is one of the things people say about me, which is so funny. They're like, you're just such a little catalyst. Like, you don't even know those people. You went and said this random thing and now they went and created this. And I'm like, well, yeah, but you just say a thing. Like, we don't always own sort of the things that we have because it's easy, right? It's like, oh, it's easy. So that is my, like every animal client I have, their animal, like I've had a bunch of dogs recently that had a lot of separation anxiety and trauma. Their lives are now different. Their owners' their pet parents' lives are different.
I love that.
And their relationship and the education changes. So they're going to teach their kids, this is what it looks like to have an animal in your life, so that it's an ongoing change. Yeah. And the same with people, right? When I'm working with adults and they're learning how to have healthy relationships or to how to, read energy and have their own gifts and be intuitive, they're going to teach their kids that.
Yeah. Oh, I love that you go there, because we adopted a rescue about 6 months ago. I say 6 months, but realistically my scope of time is so messed up. We'll just say 6 months. So we adopted Frida. She's a beautiful staffy. She's just turned 6 years old. And I can see the way my children are with her. And I can see the conversations that we have and their, exposure to looking after an animal that has got a trauma background, and why she reacts in certain ways and gets upset when you're roughhousing, and why she has separation anxiety and she cries when one of us leaves the house. So I totally see in very real time what that work you do, the impact that has on lives, because it's not just about giving that animal a better life, but also the empathy and compassion that those kids are able to learn because of their work with that animal. So I love that is your legacy, that is your impact in the world, because I completely understand, and there's no ego in that. Like, I'm here to change the world. That is my calling. And as someone with anxiety and likes to maybe hide a little bit more, that's terrifying. But I also know deep in my heart, deep in my soul, that that's why I'm here. So I love that you've claimed that for yourself, because I think a lot of people listening will also relate to that calling is there, and that's not an ego thing. That is a knowing of purpose.
Thank you for that. I appreciate it. It's still not comfortable to say.
Yeah, of course. And
I
that's
appreciate that.
that's that people pleaser thing coming through,
Yep.
because you don't want to be seen as egotistical, and probably
yeah.
that, exposure to narcissistic, community influences, people in your lives who say, no bragging and all that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
It's not a bragging thing. I think it's a declaration of the impact that you want to have in the world, and that's
Yeah.
not coming from ego. So I think that's absolutely beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that. So Alicia and her wonderful work, Who Knew Healing, I will pop all of her links for her website and Facebook page if you want to connect with her, if you want to learn more about her work. I'll make sure I put all of those links handy dandy in the caption. Otherwise, thank you so much, Alicia, for coming on today. It's been wonderful speaking with you.
Oh my goodness. This is, look, now I got all the feelings and not the words. Like, this has been so magical, and I love being connected with you and all that you do. And I can't wait to see what you create next.
Thank
Also,
you.
there's some good stuff coming.
Thank
Just saying.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of By the Cottage Hearth with me, your host, Dana Maree. Make sure to like, subscribe, and follow on whatever platform you're on to be notified of new episodes. And you can also follow me on By the Cottage Hearth on Facebook and Instagram. Check out show notes for any links or freebie goodies that I might have going at the time. Otherwise, I'll see you on the next episode. Keep healing.